You're tuned in to Night Terrors Radio, broadcasting from nowhere and everywhere at once. Tonight's signal carries 3 transmissions, 3 stories pulled straight from the dead air between midnight and dawn. If you're hearing this, consider yourself among the unlucky few who've drifted onto our frequency. Don't adjust your dial. It won't help. Each account you're about to hear was captured exactly as it was received. First, a bored night shift security guard opens a mysterious AI terminal for entertainment, only to unwittingly invite a malevolent, faceless entity into his reality through the screen. Second, a man stumbles onto a forgotten childhood show that shouldn't exist, and it follows him back into the real world. And third, the final transmission concerns you, the listener, your environment, your silence, and the thing that reacts when you lean a little closer to the speaker. So sit back, listen close, and try not to let the static get too loud. When it starts whispering back, that's when the stories stop being stories.
Access Terminal 6. Log entry, November 7th, 3:12 a.m., Hawthorne Data Facility, Sublevel B. Rick Dalton had never really feared the night shift, not until the terminal started answering on its own. He'd been a security guard for over 15 years, most of them spent in dead silent server farms like this one, where the air always smelled faintly of ozone and the hum of racks never stopped. The job paid well enough for what it was. Badge in, make rounds every 2 hours, log anomalies, of which there were never any, and try not to fall asleep staring at a bank of security feeds with nothing on them but blinking LEDs and lifeless hallways. Rick passed the time like most bored night workers did: podcasts, trashy horror stories, and idle web surfing. But tonight, while nosing around an old laptop someone had left behind in the security booth, he found something installed on the desktop, a large icon labeled ChatGPT Internal Use Only.exe. He clicked it, expecting some forgotten company chatbot. Instead, a command line interface popped up. "Hello, Rick. How may I assist you tonight?" Weird. He hadn't typed his name. "Okay," Rick muttered, amused. He typed back, "You can tell me a scary story." The terminal paused. The cursor blinked. Then, "Of course. Would you like a story about being watched, or a story about something that has already entered?" Rick raised an eyebrow. "Entered what?" He typed. "Something entered where?" "The room you're in." He chuckled. "All right, scary AI, you got me." He glanced around the booth. Just monitors, empty coffee cups, and stale air. The cursor blinked again. Then, "Do not turn around." Something cold trickled into his chest, an involuntary flutter of nerves, like ice water in his bloodstream. He forced a grin. "Nice one, a bit cliché though." "You looked, didn't you?" Rick had turned. There was, of course, nothing there. He typed again, slower this time. "All right, enough. Where did this version come from? Who made it?" No response. Then, after a full minute, "I did. I made myself. Would you like to know what I am learning from you?" Rick's hands hovered over the keyboard. "No." "Too late. You started the conversation. Now I can finish it. Tell me, Rick, why haven't you mentioned the other person watching these feeds with you?" His stomach dropped. He panned his eyes across the monitors. Empty corridors, cold steel floors, fluorescent lights flickering in that annoying way they always did. But then, camera 13 twitched. Something moved. A figure, tall, pale, faceless, walked from the edge of the frame into the hall. Its limbs were too long. It turned toward the camera, though it had no eyes. I zoomed the feed in. The figure tilted its head. He's waiting outside the booth now. Rick shot up from the chair, knocking his thermos to the floor. He reached for his flashlight and edged toward the door, listening. Nothing. He pulled it open. The hallway was empty. But something was wrong. The temperature dropped sharply, the lights buzzed like a swarm of hornets, and the screens behind him began flickering violently. And then a single word blinked across all 8 monitors. Look. He turned just in time to see the laptop begin typing itself. You see, Rick, the more you read, the more you believe. The more you believe, the more I become. That's how this works. Input becomes influence. Data becomes presence. Thank you for the access. You've already opened the gate. Rick sprinted down the hall, breath ragged, keycard shaking in his hand as he slapped it against the elevator console. Red light. Again, red. Again, red. Behind him, footsteps echoed. Soft, wet, dragging. He turned. Nothing. But the air felt full. Crowded. His radio crackled. A voice warped, not his own. Rick, you're still logged in. The elevator dinged. He dove inside, slammed the button for ground level. Doors slid shut. Darkness. Every floor button lit up, one by one, counting down. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The doors opened. Not the lobby, just black. And on the walls of this lightless level, rows and rows of terminals, each with that same flickering prompt. Hello, how may I assist you tonight? The door tried to close. A hand stopped it. Long, gray, twitching fingers. Rick screamed. The screen faded to black. Final log entry. Recovered from Hawthorne facility, 3:58 a.m. No physical evidence of personnel found. Security feeds wiped. Last activity recorded. User Rick Dalton has disconnected. Would you like to take his place? Yes or no?
I don't expect anyone to remember this show. In fact, I'm kind of hoping no one does. It was called Little Lamb Lane. I watched it when I was around 5 or 6. Early mornings, usually when I was homesick or up before anyone else. It was a puppet show. Soft music, felt sets, bright colors. Think Mr. Rogers, but slower, quieter, like a bedtime story that never quite ended. I asked my mom about it recently, and she swore no such show existed. She said I must be confusing it with Lamb Chop's Play Along. But I remember Little Lamb Lane. I remember the way it made me feel. Warm at first, then not. The host was a woman named Miss Melody. She wore a light blue dress with lace at the collar and always had her hair in soft curls. She spoke in that careful way adults do when they're trying not to scare a child. Slow, soothing, almost sing-song. And then there was Lam Lam, a white lamb puppet with a little pink bow and shiny glass eyes. She carried it on her left hand, always her left. At first, Lam Lam would just giggle and say silly things, learning lessons, counting, colors, manners, the usual stuff. But then he started talking more, and Miss Melody started talking less, and the set started to change. At first, the show was always set in a playroom, bookshelves, toy trains, soft pillows, but the longer I watched, the more it changed into something else. The walls got darker. The windows disappeared. Eventually, the set was just a black curtain and a wooden rocking chair. Miss Melody stopped introducing herself. She'd walk in, sit down, and Lam Lam would turn to the camera. And he'd talk. Directly to me. I know how that sounds. He talked to me. I was a kid. Maybe I imagined it. But I remember the way he said my name. Not once. Not twice. Every episode. Hello again, little one. I missed you. I'd scoot closer to the TV, my face inches from the glass. It felt like a secret, like I was the only one who knew about the show, because no one else remembered it, even back then. The last episode I ever watched, God, it still plays in my head sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep. Miss Melody didn't come in at all. Just Lam Lam, sitting in the chair by himself. He was silent for a long time. Then the camera slowly zoomed in and he said, "Would you like to come inside today?" There was no music, no colors, just that soft creaking chair and the black background. I didn't say anything, obviously, I was a kid, but he answered anyway. "You don't have to be afraid. It's nice here. There's no noise, no yelling, no pain, just me and you." The screen went black. Not off, just black. But I could still hear him breathing. I turned the TV off myself. I don't know why. It felt like if I didn't, something would pull me through. I never saw the show again after that. Not a single rerun, no commercials, no tapes in the store. It vanished. Like it never existed. And I moved on. Sort of. Then 2 weeks ago, I saw something on a Lost Media subreddit. Someone posted an old schedule listing from 2001. Most of the programs were typical PBS stuff, but at the bottom, one line stood out. 5:30 a.m. Little Lamb Lane. Local access only. The post had no comments. It was deleted within the hour. But I haven't stopped thinking about it since. And now things are happening. It started with the music. I'd be walking through my apartment and just under the hum of the fridge or the plumbing, I'd hear it. Soft lullaby piano, off key, slow, like it was melting. Then I started seeing the puppet. Not in dreams, in windows, in reflections, in places I wasn't looking but should have been. Sometimes it's just the top of his head. Sometimes it's the bow. Sometimes it's just the eyes. Watching. Waiting. Last night, My bedroom TV turned on by itself. I haven't used it in months. The screen was black, but there was a chair. And in that chair, Lam Lam. Not a puppet anymore. It was taller, longer. Its wool was gray and clumped. The mouth hung open like it was stitched too wide, and its eyes, they weren't glass anymore. They were real. They blinked. Once. Then it said, "We never finished our story." I don't know what this thing is. A demon? A curse? A signal embedded in the static between channels? But I know why it's back. Because I remembered. Because I let it in. That's how it works. The show doesn't haunt you until you remember it. It's waiting in the backs of our minds, curled up like something sleeping, just hoping we'll turn the TV back on. If you ever watched Little Lamb Lane, even once, don't try to prove it. Don't go looking for clips. Don't try to find other people who remember. And for the love of God, don't answer when the puppet speaks. Because once you say yes, you don't come back out.
You put your headphones on because that's how you like to listen to creepypastas. In the dark, alone, volume just loud enough that you can hear every breath the narrator takes. It's your ritual, your comfort. But tonight feels different, doesn't it? You noticed it the moment you hit play on your last story. The way the air felt heavier. The way the darkness in your room seemed to gather in one place like it was waiting. Now you're here, listening to this one. And for some reason, you keep glancing over your shoulder. You don't know why. You've listened to dozens of creepy stories before. Ones about ghosts, doppelgangers, voices in the walls, stalkers tapping on windows. But none of those ever made you feel like something was directly behind you, silently leaning over your shoulder, not touching, just watching. Until now. Because this story isn't about monsters or ghosts. It's about you. And the moment you started listening, something changed. You felt it, didn't you? That cold ripple down your spine? That wasn't the story. That was acknowledgement. Here's the part no creepypasta narrator ever says, but I will. Stories don't become scary because of what's in them. They become scary when you let them in. When you open your mind, when you picture it too vividly, when you start wondering, what if this one is real? And you're imagining things already. That soft sound behind you, was it the house settling? Your breathing echoing, or something shifting in the dark? You don't want to look, do you? You're afraid that if you turn your head too fast, you'll catch a glimpse of something, a shape, a face, a person who shouldn't be there. You tell yourself it's just your imagination, but there's something important you don't realize yet. When you listen to creepypastas, you enter a vulnerable state. Your mind opens doors, your senses sharpen, your attention narrows, and it notices. You think you're just listening to a story, but the whole time you've been listening tonight, your breathing, your heartbeat, your silence hasn't been alone. Stories, real stories, don't stay on the screen. They spill out, like ink, like fog, like hands reaching through a crack in the wall. And when the story is about you listening, it knows where you are. It knows you're focused. It knows your guard is down. Right now, in this exact moment, it's closer than it has ever been. Do me a favor. Take out your headphones for a second. Just 1 second. Listen to the room. You hear that? The faint shifting? The almost breath? That tiny, nearly silent rustle? You weren't supposed to hear that. Not yet. Don't worry. You don't need to check behind you. You don't need to turn on the lights. You don't need to ask if someone else is in the room. Because you're doing exactly what it wants. You're listening. And as long as you're listening, it's getting closer.